right, folks. How about that? Sam Crawford, tone. We're talking tone today, folks. Great. Welcome to episode 37. And we've been doing this, I don't know, 3 years or so. Today's guest on episode 37 of McGold Riffs is Sam Crawford. Sam is an American guitarist and singer known for playing in a wide variety of styles. He's an active member of several bands in New England, including Quadruped, Strange Changes, Houston Bernard Band, and of course the Sam Crawford Trio. He has performed in the U.S., in Europe with artists such as Ward Hayden, and we're going to talk about, and the Outliers, and all of these folks. So we're going to talk about them all. Blues singer Julie Rhodes, and Kirsten Merlin of NBC's The Voice, among others. He has recording credits on independent releases going back to 2005. Crawford is also an established guitar teacher, and I want to remind me to we'll talk about that. I like to talk about methodologies and what type of students, young people, whatever, and what they want to learn. As an adolescent, he took weekly lessons from Stephen Ide, and I'm wondering if he's related to a Mike Ide, who was a professor at Berkeley.
As far as I know, he's not.
Okay.
As far as he knows, he's not.
Yeah, Mike was one of the top professors at Berkeley in the 70s, who is best known for playing with folk legend Arlo Guthrie, and I loved Arlo, Alice's Restaurant, famous. Crawford holds a Bachelor's of Arts from Manhattanville College, where he majored in music and minored in philosophy. And again, I found Sam. And again, as you find the world has really moved towards things like TikTok, and I don't have TikTok yet, but also to Instagram. And I saw this fantastic video of Sam on there. Who is this guy? And why don't I know him? And why doesn't more people? And that's why we get him on the show. And that's why I trying to get the best guitar players in the city, in greater Boston it is, to come here and here. I'm trying to get some national guys too. 2 months ago, Daryl Hall was in town.
Oh yeah.
At the Orpheum, and I had been in touch with Shane Theriot, who's the music director and the guitar player. You ever watch the show Daryl's House?
Daryl's House. I've seen it a couple of times.
And I love it because he brings in young folks like various people, and they get to play with these monsters. And Shane is a really good guy, and he also has a podcast as well. And I was going to interview him, and I got COVID, and that was after 4 shots. I was teaching music at private schools in Boston. I was doing gigs. I do a lot of volunteering for the Red Cross. I was out in the world for like 2 years, didn't get it. So I wasn't. He was my only national guy, and Sam eventually will be a national guy. So 10 years from now, when he's famous, I'm gonna say I have him on this video here. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, Sam, because I don't know where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Sheffield, Massachusetts.
Where is that?
That's in. So
I lived here for 60 some odd years.
So this is Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
It's like this is Cape Cod. Shaped a little funny, right? But Sheffield's all the way down here.
All the way down there, the corner of New York and Connecticut.
Yes, exactly. I was actually closer to Manhattanville College in New York than I was to Boston. And
so you've done that description of your town before, I can
No, I actually never thought to do it.
It actually works.
It works pretty well.
Sheffield,
Massachusetts. Yeah, it's about 3,000 people, or it was when I lived there.
Yeah, and tell me about why you do this bizarre thing with 6 strings.
Yeah.
What led you to this addiction? We are all addicted. It's an issue, and we're trying to get over it. What led you to this?
Well, both of my parents are musicians.
What do they play?
They both play piano.
Oh, cool.
My mom took lessons from the time she was a little kid. She ended up going to college for music. She was a music ed person.
Where'd she go?
And she went to the University of Hartford.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big
She
program
ended up
down
getting
there.
a master's there too later on. But she's been teaching public school for years.
What grade?
She's done mostly elementary. She's done high school too, general music, band, chorus.
Full time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Almost any kind of music they need doing. She's done it.
Yeah.
And she's really good at it.
And that's serious level stuff. I don't want to usurp here, but I did after my many years in corporate. I through COVID, I was available to do stuff, and I taught part time, and I realized how hard it is.
Yeah,
it is. And I had middle school. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so she's still teaching.
She is. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. And she's Yeah, like I was a music ed major for one semester in college,
Right.
and I shadowed her for a day.
Oh,
And I actually
really?
got to see her do her thing.
What grade was that?
Oh God, I don't remember.
Were they
they were
little
young.
ones?
They were like maybe third or fourth grade.
Uh-huh.
And it was, I got to say, it was really cool to see her
In
do
action.
her thing. Yeah,
Right,
yeah. So she's classically trained. She's a great player, and she sings. And so her first job was singing in church in Great Barrington, singing and playing the organ. She played the organ too.
Right.
So I always remembered that. And then my dad played piano, and he never. I don't think he may have taken one lesson, you know, but he kept playing, you know, all the while.
Yeah.
And he always had, you know, so there was always piano in the house. So he would
Yeah.
sit down and play. But he just plays the way he plays. You know, he's got kind of a bluesy style. I mean, George Winston is actually
Cool.
a big hero of his.
Yeah.
On the piano. And Vince Giraldi. Or Goraldi.
Do you know how to pronounce his name?
I actually don't
Giraldi
know.
is it, but
Giraldi, yeah. Vince Giraldi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big hero
From,
of his too.
Christmas type of things from Charlie
What
Brown.
else does he like? Ramsey Lewis. He always liked Ramsey Lewis a lot.
Yeah.
So he would play Maybelline on the piano, and we'd run around it. We'd run around the living room. You know,
Why can't you be
and he'd
true?
sing it too. You know. So that was always going on, and my mom always had a guitar around.
Let me ask you this: Did
yeah.
your father do it professionally?
No,
Or was
no,
it like
he never
a
did
side
it
thing
professionally.
for him?
He did. There was a bit there where he would play at a place called the Robbie Burns Pub, which I think is no longer there in Egremont, when he was a young guy.
Yeah.
And he'd go and play there every once in a while, and they might have paid him a dinner for the night or something. I don't remember, but he never made a career out of it.
Cool.
But
So they didn't meet at a gig or something.
no. It's funny how their musical experiences were so very different.
Right. She's classically
You know,
trained.
yeah, she's classically
He's
trained.
learning by ear.
And he always just did stuff by ear and was not really interested in training.
Right.
You know,
I don't want to go too far down, but
yeah.
it's interesting. I wonder if your mother, would say, okay, you shouldn't use your fingers this way. You should, because there are certain ways.
Oh,
that
yeah,
the real
definitely,
keyboard players.
definitely.
I'm one of these, big
Yeah,
chord
yeah.
keyboard players.
I don't know if they ever. I don't know how much they talked about piano actually.
Yeah.
Just to be honest.
So go on to you. So there was always
But,
a guitar in the house.
There was always guitar in the house, and I do remember listening to the Beatles and picking up my mom's guitar and trying to figure out one of the songs. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know no guitar experience really, just having heard
was
it
like,
and
what,
seen it
9?
around. Yeah, I was probably around 9 years old, and I picked it up and I remember trying to work out what they were doing and utterly failing and just being like and instead of thinking, wow, this is really hard, I remember thinking, why can't I do this? I should be able to hear what they're doing and figure it out.
Right.
And which is sort of a
That's a
like
bizarre thing that
why
you
would
would
you
think.
have that thought? you
Right,
know?
right,
Yeah.
right.
But for some reason I did,
Right.
and it always was just sort of interesting to me. And actually, I think my brother got a guitar for Christmas. one
Older,
year.
younger?
Younger
Yeah.
brother got a guitar for Christmas one year.
And you didn't.
And I didn't. And I was already playing trumpet in the school band by then, I think. Like
Was that fourth, fifth grade?
Yeah, started in fourth grade. But my brother got a guitar. I can't remember if he asked for it or if it was just something that my mom thought to get for him. He might have even asked for it. And he didn't. He did a little bit with it, but he didn't. It didn't really hold his interest. And I got a hold of it a couple of times, and I remember looking at the book that came with it and like plunking a few things out. And then when I think I was 10 when someone sat me down and showed me a couple of chords. Right. Her name was Emma Daigle. She was.
And you were playing trumpet.
I was already
So
playing
you
trumpet,
knew
so
a
I was
whole
already.
note,
I
a
was
half
learning
note,
to read
quarter note,
notes.
You
Yep.
know time signatures.
Yep.
Which is critical. 90% of guitar players don't learn this.
Well, yeah,
We
I-
learn like 14 chords, which will give you all the songs in the world.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's
Why
is
No,
that?
I don't really know
why
what
is that
it
a
is.
C chord? That's a C chord. That's a C chord. That's a C chord. That's a C chord.
Right. Exactly.
It's not just this. Okay, so
Yeah.
if I play this here, that's a C chord too. Right? No. Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah.
you know.
No, I don't know why. I don't know what it is about guitar. I think it's. I mean, you find it in all instruments to some degree, but with guitar, there is sort of a suspicion of intellectualizing it, or training,
especially in the pop rock world,
Right. And I guess maybe it stems from rock and roll. Maybe there's a sort of a suspicion of structure and
and I want to talk about that with you when you're teaching, because I'm curious and I'm fascinated by that. So you picked it up.
Right.
You're 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
You got a Mel Bay book of some sort. One of those.
There was some.
Al Leonard.
It was even weirder. Something that like.
Vinnie Bombard's
I
guitar
don't
chords.
even know. Yeah. It was just whatever came with the guitar. I think,
Right.
And it was some like one of those like steel reinforced neck things with no actual truss rod. It was like some acoustic guitar.
Woolworths or some.
Action
like
something
action
like
is
that.
the height of the
the
strings.
The kind of guitar you buy your kid when you're not sure if they're even all that interested. You're kind of hedging your bets, right? So Emma Daigle was this friend of my mom's from church who played the guitar, and she played a kind of a cool guitar. She played a 12-string Ovation.
Oh yeah, that was
her thing.
Time.
Yeah, that was her
Takes
thing.
an hour to tune, but
Yeah, right. And I always thought that was a cool sound. But she showed me my first chords, I think, and then my mom showed me a couple of things. And by the time I was 12, I started taking lessons with Steve. Because by that time I was already playing Stairway to Heaven wrong. On my own.
Right.
And I think my dad. My dad was in the video documentary business for a while. He was a car guy, cars and trucks. And so
cool.
he would go around the country shooting people who were involved in the antique vehicle hobby.
Cool.
And so he needed music for that. And Steve was local, and they'd known each other forever.
Right.
Because Steve grew up in Great Barrington,
Right, and
he went to high school.
Probably paid a lot less than trying to get copyrights off of some of the generally available
absolutely.
stuff.
So he'd pay Steve
me $100
to
for
do
that
music
tune.
for it. Yeah, original music for it.
Yeah.
And it was always great. And Steve came over one day, and my dad was like, "Can you?"
How old was he? Is he like 20s type guy?
Steve's a little older than my dad, I think.
So he was probably 40s or whatever.
Yeah, because probably at the time. Yeah.
Right. And when you're a 12-year-old guy, a 40-year-old guy is like 110. Right?
Well, I knew Steve a bit because his wife was my teacher at school. Carol was my teacher at school, who also was on the road with Arlo.
Really?
Carol was. Yeah, she was like the coolest third grade teacher you could imagine.
Cool.
Because she was in the band. She sang and she played hand percussion, and she plays guitar.
Shout out to those two.
Yeah, I mean Steve and Carol,
inspiring you.
Berkshire music power couple.
Cool. And Arlo lived out that way.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, still does as far as I know.
Yeah.
Or he at least has a house there.
Yeah.
But and then
so you're 12, that's 6th grade, and you're already going.
So by that point, right. By that point, I'm like,
so
whatever
you're doing
it
that.
was. And Steve comes over. He could tell that I had some level of aptitude for it, and said, okay, I'll come and give you lessons. And we did lessons for I think 6 years, mostly weekly, especially for their first few years. It was really every week.
Was this your thing? Because you
Guitar?
were telling me that you didn't follow sports.
No, I mean I liked
Sam Crawford was all during high
Little
school.
League. I liked Little League a lot when I was that age. But any interest in sports at the time was eclipsed pretty fast by the music. Once I sunk my teeth into it at all. And because I remember Steve came over and he said, "All right, well, what do you want to learn?" And I was like, "I want to learn Black Dog."
Yeah.
And he went, "Okay, here we go."
It's been a long time. No, that's rock and roll.
What
is Black Dog?
It's like. Right,
so you did that one. Yeah.
So that was
cool.
He was like,
that's a
all right,
tough
that's
Well,
yeah, I just thought it sounded. I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. Because I remember we were exposed to the Beatles. Because when my mom first got a CD player, it was all over. She bought all the Beatles albums, and then she bought some Zeppelin. And I think Zeppelin 4 was the first one she bought. So it was all that stuff, Stairway to Heaven, and I think Black Dog's on that too.
Yeah.
I just remember hearing that, just the sound of it, just the right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it I just I just wanted that, you
Right.
know, like in the worst way. So I would sit there and try to do it, but then
And we're
Steve would come
talking-
over.
2000, right?
Oh yeah, right around then.
So
yeah, 2000.
I mean,
yeah.
that was odd for someone your age. What were you
I
buddies?
guess so.
Were you buddies into that? Over there
Not
into
really.
the current music.
No, they were
whatever that
into-
current music was.
yeah, they were
'Cause
into-
you were 12. Yeah,
they
you
were-
were about like the
I think
the
I remember the
Y2K.
Beastie Boys being. I remember the Beastie Boys being around, and a friend of mine listening to them, and be like, "Don't you listen to Beastie Boys?" I was like, "The who?"
You were a retro guy.
The what? You know, yeah. And I didn't. I think I said to you earlier. I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to be into the music that my parents were into.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
It was a different
Yeah.
generation. See,
Yeah.
it was such a big dichotomy between the generation of my parents, the 30s and
Yeah,
40s.
right.
And then when the hippie days came, they were like against it all. My father was military.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's
Right.
like, no, whatever that is, we're against it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
there, whatever it is, I want to be it.
Yeah. So that.
So you were a retro guy.
Yeah,
Your parents
definitely,
were, you know,
definitely.
my age, you know, the hippie
Yeah,
generation and rock and roll. And to
Right.
me, it was a lot better than the Beastie Boys.
Well, I just didn't know anything else really. I was just into it.
Okay,
I
so
loved
take me into your
Hendrix and
first band.
Clapton. So my first band was like a garage band.
How old?
You know, with my buddies. I was probably 13, 14.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
we
right
kind
the
of
time
started
to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I interviewed
Yeah.
another guy the other day, and he didn't do a band all through high school.
Wow.
Then he did a year or two in college, and then he ended up going to Berkeley and getting in bands. Getting into bands at 13, 14, and for you young guitar players out
Yeah.
there, do it. Screw
Yeah,
up.
I mean,
play
right.
horribly.
Right.
Play out of tune.
You learn
because
things.
that's how you learn. It's what I
Right.
call scar tissue. Develop scar tissue. It heals itself, and you get better.
Right. Totally. Yeah. No, I did a lot of learning in those days. I played a little drums, mostly because we didn't know anybody
Well,
who
let me
played
ask
drums.
you, how come you didn't get into piano with two piano player
Oh,
parents?
you know, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think my mom probably rightly judged that lessons with her wouldn't have gone well.
Yeah, no way.
You know,
Right.
My sister took lessons. My older sister took piano lessons.
Do you play piano at all?
And I learned enough to get through my keyboard harmony classes in college, and did some lessons. So I could play a little bit there for a while, but I don't really.
You know,
I don't keep
typical
up with
guitar
it.
players, we focus
Yeah.
on this, and I was a music ed degree at Berkeley, and I'll never forget my last day at Berkeley. I had a proficiency for keyboard that I had to
Yeah.
do, and it was like serious level stuff. My Country Tis of V, in
Uh-huh.
5-part,
Right.
You know,
I probably did the same arrangement. Yeah.
and that was in C. You had to transpose the 5 keys.
Uh-huh.
Da, 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 and the teacher said, "Okay." She just signed me
Yeah,
off.
yeah. No,
she did not want to wait
I was
for,
never-
for F sharp major.
Yeah, I was never really any good at that.
We focused,
but-
you know. Most great
Yeah.
guitar players
Yeah.
focus, and guys who don't are, you know, they'll play bass, they'll play all this other stuff, they'll play drums and
Well,
whatever.
I really did do a lot of bass guitar.
Uh-huh.
And I did some double bass.
Which helps
too.
you. You can get gigs
Yeah,
doing that.
because I'd forgotten about that. So my mom suggested that I pick up the bass, kind of first.
Uh-huh.
Like,
really?
yeah, she
Nobody
was
picks
like,
up
she was
bass
like,
first.
She
That's
was like,
interesting.
you know, because she said, you know, the jazz band at school will need a bass player. They don't
Let
necessarily
me interrupt you
need a
right there.
guitar
If there are 100 if there are 100 players in a room, there are 92 guitar players, 3 bass players, and maybe a couple of front guys.
Yeah.
And guess what? Every band needs a bass player.
Right. Yeah. So that was kind of the argument, and
Yeah.
I learned the bass guitar out of the same method book.
And did you learn
Series.
the real life? I'm like a Paul McCartney.
For bass.
Yeah, I mean, I play with a pick.
Yeah. No, I learned with the fingers.
I could never do that for
And
some reason.
I learned it out of what it kind of cracks me up about it now is that I learned it out of the same method book series, the Accent on Achievement series, that we learned the trumpet and the tuba and everything else out of. And it just seemed normal to me. So my reading was actually pretty good on the bass.
How about guitar?
My reading caught up eventually
Yeah.
on the guitar. But even at that time, guitar was like my thing. Guitar was the thing that I would go home and just do.
Right.
I heard Steve Vai put it this way in some interviews. He said, well, you know, I would just go home and play guitar until I was blue in the face.
Right.
And that always resonated with me because I would do the same thing.
I think
Not
we're
that
all
I'm-
the same way, man. On
not that I'm
Saturday,
comparing
I'd
myself
hear
to
my
Steve Vai.
friends out there playing on a Saturday, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm on guitar on
Yeah.
a Saturday, at noon, my mother would yell, "Billy,
Yeah.
have lunch," and I'd go
Yeah.
out and have lunch, and then I'd go back in for another 6 hours. Billy, the supper, and
Yeah.
I think we're crazy.
My
Most
sister
of
would
us
have
are
my sister
crazy.
would have to bang on her floor because her room was above
Right.
me. And it's like, stop, it's 11 o'clock.
You know,
right?
you get to think
Yeah.
like LeBron James probably
Yeah.
did the same thing with basketball. Bill
Oh,
Gates
yeah.
probably did the same
Probably.
thing with computers. To get good at anything, you need to be a little bit obsessive.
Yeah, I think
okay,
so. Yeah,
so
yeah.
that you did the
Right.
high school band sort of thing.
Mhm.
Did you got out of the garage and do a better high school band?
Yeah. So I always kind of kept playing with the guys in the garage band,
So
and
that-
actually
so they
actually
evolved.
I still go back and do gigs with them sometimes.
Can they play?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they're half
the,
decent.
And good players.
No,
And,
doing at your level though, right? I mean, you all got regular jobs.
So the drummer has done a lot of professional work.
Yeah.
He played with he played with a bunch of acts out in Nashville. He moved to Nashville for a while and lived
So they
there.
weren't.
Yeah.
But they got busted.
Yeah.
The 5 and died.
I think he's done.
Yeah.
I think he's done a fair amount of those gigs too. But
So the drum.
he had some road gigs.
Yeah.
Yep. He had some really good road gigs, and he's a fantastic player.
Cool.
Guy's named Aaron Scapine.
Okay.
And I miss playing with him.
Cool.
Actually, and then the bass player was Mike.
Yeah.
Scapine, and
Brother.
the guitar player and singer was John Scapine.
Cool.
So it was 3 brothers and me.
Oh, cool.
A lot of the time, and this other kid Eli.
So you did that all through high school?
So that we
Until, like,
did
you
that,
graduated.
and then when I was 16, I met a guy named Justin Mather,
Okay.
who was a little older. He was out of college already, and the way I met him was at the school. He was doing ESL stuff because we had some English as a second language
Sure. Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
And he was helping them out because his Spanish was really good. I think he majored in Spanish in college, in fact. But Justin gave me my first studio gig because he was recording a record and he needed bass guitar,
Yeah.
and I ended up playing a little electric guitar on it too. And then when he put the band together to do it live, he asked me to play guitar, and that was my first like working band.
Cool.
Because we would go around and do gigs and get paid, and
16,
and it was a
17.
blast. Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
sophomore, junior year in high school.
Yeah, I could just freshly able to drive myself to the gigs,
Uh-huh.
and
Cool.
rehearsals and things. And
Yeah.
so that was a great experience. Because playing with my buddies was the real like formative, just
Sure.
purely musical passion part
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And then playing with Justin was what I characterized as my first professional experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to get that at that age was, I don't know if I realized it at the time. It's a pretty special thing.
Formative. Yeah.
Pretty formative. Yeah, definitely. And they were great guys. They were all in their 20s.
And that's interesting. I did a couple of those things as a young kid where I was like the little kid.
Right,
And
yeah.
it was, I'm friends with some of those guys to this day.
Yeah.
No issues with your old band saying, okay, he's going to be a big time guy now and he's going to leave us?
Not really, because everybody was busy doing stuff. Aaron was older than us, so he had a job, and John was,
Cool.
was in school and everything, and I don't remember any issues there.
So take me right. So you graduate
Yeah.
high school,
Yeah.
and what are you going to do?
So yeah,
That's the
so right,
question.
it was right around that time I had a history teacher in high school who was pretty on the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and gave me a CD of like a compilation. It had some Stevie Ray on it, and Ry Cooder, and like some other really great cats that I can't remember, but the one that stuck out to me was Robin Ford.
Right. That's interesting. We were talking
yeah.
about him earlier.
Yeah,
Probably one of my
and-
favorite guitar players in the world.
Yeah, me too, man.
Great videos too.
Yep. Yeah. No, he's a really thoughtful guy,
Right.
and just such a force of nature, musically.
Yeah. And he uses a telly mostly.
Yeah. He plays it looks a lot like this one actually. But I think he's got a rosewood fingerboard though, right?
I love that color.
Yeah.
Of that. Yeah.
This is funny. This was the most recent guitar purchase, I think.
And I've always loved
Yeah.
maple for some, and a
You know,
telly for
I
some
like
reason.
it. I like it too.
I think
you
it's a
know.
little slower to play than rosewood. But
It can, yeah.
There's a little bit more soul
if
for
you
some
get
reason.
caught on the lacquer, yeah. But yeah, I love this one, and Robin's sound, just hit me. You know, it was like, you know, it was like the Zeppelin thing. It was like when I was little, you know, I heard that for the first time. It just made such an impression, you know. And hearing Robin's tone and his phrasing, by that point I was at a point where I could really start to appreciate really good phrasing and like outlining the chords. I don't think I knew that that's what it was at the time, but that was what I was drawn to.
Did you know theory by like senior in high school?
So by that time I knew a fair amount because Steve was pretty savvy. Steve Ide.
Yeah. Would he take you through a song? Here's a 1, here's a 6 minor, here's
Yeah,
a 4,
yeah,
here's
yeah.
a
So I
5,
learned-
and this is and it's how I think of music,
Right.
and it's a good way to think of music.
Yeah.
If you're in a gig situation where you have to transpose on site,
Right.
immediately,
Right.
it's like it doesn't really matter. A 1 is a 1. What key do you want? And B flat? Okay, good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So well, I know. You know.
Yeah.
Actually, let me interrupt right there.
Sure.
You know, just because of the timing thing,
Right.
I just at least want to get some of your videos here.
Yeah.
The first video we're going to do is guitar solo from Houston Bernard show, and how my notes were odd telly on fire. This is a short, maybe like 40-second. Tell me about this gig and tell me about this solo.
Right.
And
So
that's that guitar,
So
I
that was
think.
this guitar, yeah.
Take a look at this
it
guitar,
had-
folks at home. It's got a humbucker here
Yeah.
and some sort of telly type. You know.
It had different pickups in it at the time.
Yeah.
I think they were DiMarzio stacks at that point. And I just recently hogged out the bridge position and put the humbucker in because
And Sam has these skills which I have none of, like changing stuff on guitars.
I so that was something I started doing right away when I got my
Really?
first guitar. I don't think I'd had it. I don't think
See, I
I'd
was
had
so
it a
poor,
month.
I was afraid I'd break it and it would never come back.
I don't think I'd had it a month before I took it apart, and
Yeah.
and just because I had to see how it worked, you know.
And so
see
who
how
is
it really went in.
Houston Bernard?
So Houston Bernard is a country artist in New England, whom I've played with for about 10 years.
Really?
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started playing
I
with
want
him.
to show this video,
Yeah.
but it's like, and after I'll go to that question
Yeah.
after this. Okay, without further ado, guitar solo from Houston Bernard show. Who are you? Are you a country guy?
Yeah.
Are you a blues guy? What, I joke when people ask me this,
Yeah.
I say I'm a Swiss Army guy. Whatever
Yeah,
the gig
right.
pays.
Right. I think truthfully, I think I'm a blues rock guy.
Right.
You know.
Right. As are so many of us.
You know,
That's-
I mean, that's just
I
you
love
know
that.
that was just that's the stuff that
Right.
and still to this day, like, you know, it's so inspiring to so many of my students and so, who are young, like young players, you know, but they hear it and they hear this stuff and they go, yeah, and I see the same thing happening
Yeah.
in their ears and in their minds, or what I think is the same thing
Earl-
that I felt when I first heard that stuff, because it was not of my time either.
Earlier, we showed the video of Mr. Music, and I want to ask you to
Yeah.
show the technique, because you do this country technique that I've never learned with a pick and then using these two fingers.
Yeah. Oh,
show me how that-
So I'm
How you
know,
do that?
I don't know when I started doing
Brad
that.
Paisley
but-
does it. They
Yeah,
all do it.
well, yeah, it's like. So, you know, I'm just kind of picking, and I always have like these. Well, I mean,
See,
first of all,
I would do it with the figure.
I'm always muting things, right? Like, I mean, so much of electric guitar playing is muting and just trying to keep. But even just like muting things that you're, whatever it is you're not playing. So I'm always kind of keeping my fingers on the
second and third.
So say I'm playing on the third string. If I want to, you know, right? If I want to get that, I'm almost always gonna pick the bend, and then finger pick the higher note. And I think it's sort of a tone thing. It's like, so you can get that real spanky thing.
Which is what Brad does.
Yeah, totally. And actually, Brad Paisley was actually a big influence on me too. I discovered
those
him.
are the only country guys I like who can play guitar. I'm not a big country guy,
like
but I'm
Vince
always
Gill.
waiting for the solo because.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to go off into my rat holes like I normally do, but why isn't Sam Crawford in Nashville?
Well,
because you blow these guys away down there.
I think, I mean, part of it is that I came to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I came to Boston after college,
right?
Because I met my wife at Manhattanville,
sure.
And we just, by the time graduation rolled around, we just kind of didn't want to let each other out of our sight. And and she's from Brookline.
Oh, she's local.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And she already had a place lined up for her and a friend to move into after college in Allston, on Chester Street.
I know it well.
Yeah.
It was part of my paperwork back in the 60s.
In those days, that's when I was parking my car on Mansfield Street.
Right.
Because
Which is
the
pretty
parking
far.
was free down there.
Pretty far.
Yeah, the parking was free, and you just had to pay attention to street sweeping.
Yeah.
You know. But that's how I ended up in Boston. Basically, it was because
it's love.
It was that.
Have you thought about moving to Nashville?
We've talked about it. We
It's
thought
tough
about it.
now, man. It's so expensive down there now.
Yeah,
many of my friends from Berkeley have gone there.
Yeah. Yep. And Robin moved there too.
See, I'm going down rat holes again.
Yeah.
Is that real wear?
No. This is almost all fake wear.
Okay.
Except for that.
That's what they call relic, folks.
Yeah. This is a custom shop.
Yeah.
That they relic, which I actually kind of appreciate because then I'm not precious about it.
Right. I'm with you on that.
Because so some of this is me now, like that one I think, and that there is me.
What are these like $1,500, something like that? In that range?
Yeah.
Really, like $2,000?
Yeah, a little more than that.
Yeah. Okay, so let me. I don't want to miss the story here. And why Manhattan, though?
Well, so I was looking at. I wanted to be in New York. I want to be near New York City, but I'm a country boy basically.
Right.
But I wanted to study jazz.
Right.
I wanted to study jazz, and New York is
why not Berkeley?
Is the jazz place. I visited Berkeley, and at that point. I visited, and a very nice student, very nice undergrad took us around, and I couldn't get over the sea of guitar gig bags.
Right.
I was like,
issue. When I was there were 1,500 students and I think 700 guitar players. Like half the school was guitar players.
Yeah.
That was when there was only 4 majors in the 70s, and
right.
You seriously, and it was intimidating.
Yeah, I was intimidated. Honestly, I was intimidated by it, and I also kind of had the feeling that I was like, I don't know if I want to go to college with all musicians.
Right.
I kind of wanted a more a broader
because you minored in philosophy,
experience.
Which
I
is
did. Yeah. And that was the other thing.
Was that a good musical experience here?
Was it
competitive?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it wasn't.
It
wasn't competitive in the way that I think other places are, like a conservatory or something, or Berkeley to some degree. I don't really know. But it was challenging. I would say it wasn't. It wasn't competitive in the way that there were just like I feel like felt like everybody was outplaying me or something. But it was challenging in the sense that there was a lot I had to learn about music theory, and I studied music history there, and I had just fantastic professors.
Right.
And they always challenged me, and I went to school with some really talented people too. Don't get me wrong, but I was the only guitar major in my class.
Wow.
I think.
Wow.
It was mostly so that's what I mean in the sense that it wasn't.
Classical type?
Yeah, a lot of classical voice, a lot of piano folks, music ed people, but it's a very small program. You know.
Did you get to play in the city at all, New York City?
Yeah, I did do some gigs in the city.
That must have been cool.
While I was there. Well, it was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah.
What's it like bringing your stuff into New York?
It was interesting.
Actually,
I always had a car.
You couldn't bring that, but you could bring this
Yeah,
gig bag.
I always had
and
a
if you
car.
had a gig bag, you could get that. But
Yep,
where,
and
where
I would
you
do it on the
park?
train
It'd be like
sometimes.
$100 to park. You know?
I don't know. I had pretty good luck with street parking back then.
Yeah,
I really did. And I actually always I've felt that in some ways New York City is actually easier to park in than Boston. You know, I don't know if it still is. I haven't gone down there in a while.
Pain to it. And whenever I play a gig in Boston, it's like, how do I get my stuff in?
How do you do it? Yeah,
And,
right.
you know,
Right.
How do I get in without getting a ticket?
Right.
You know,
exactly.
and then I leave my stuff.
Yeah.
Then I got to go park my car,
Right.
and that's when the guitar
Yeah.
gets stolen.
Right, yeah. I mean,
I grew up in the city, so I assume everybody's going to steal my stuff.
Yeah, and New York can certainly be that way. But I just always felt like I was able to find some street parking somewhere at that time, and maybe I was just lucky. I don't know.
Let's get these other two
Yeah.
videos in. What is this Towner Tension?
Oh yeah, the
bar
Towner
demo. Why?
the Towner
why
Down Tension Bar. That was one of my COVID videos.
Okay.
COVID era videos.
Right. And we all did a bunch of those.
Yeah, I mean that was before. I think I did that before the gigs really came back.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah.
And I had been messing around on that guitar. That was a Gibson 339.
339. I don't even know what that is.
339. It's like a 335, but the body's a little smaller.
Oh, that must be cool.
Yeah. It's
The
kind of a neat
335 is
neat
actually
guitar.
too big, I think.
I don't know. I actually decided I liked the 335 better.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But I bought that 339 years ago when I was trying to cut a little corner and be like, well, they're kind of, you can get them for a little less, pound for pound. So I ended up getting that guitar, and then I didn't unload it until just recently. But when I got the 335, I said, well, why don't I turn this into sort of a, Filtertron style thing, Gretschy thing. And so I put the Bigsby on it, and I tried a couple of different Bigsby models with the Vibramate thing.
You got to put
and
holes in it,
all this
right?
stuff. Well, with the Towner stuff, you don't have to actually. Towner makes and they don't pay me to say this, but Towner makes a little aluminum thing that you put on so the whole thing just ends up the whole Bigsby just ends up mounting to the strap
It
button.
sounds great,
That's
man.
the word. And then the bar, the thing I was sort of demoing was the down tension bar that mounts to it's brilliant. It mounts to the studs that the stop tailpiece would mount to, and you can raise and lower it. Because my problem with the other Bigsby models was that the string tensioner would always put too much of a break angle on the saddle, right? So I was always looking out for things that would allow you to adjust that. And so I got the other Bigsby model, which is I think the B3 model. My keyboard player got all excited when I told him I bought a B3. But it was it just goes like that, and it's a little shorter, so it would work on a guitar like that. And I found that tension bar just allowed you to put just the right break angle over the saddles.
Great, man.
And so I liked that. Yeah.
Let's take a listen to that. Okay, we're back. I'm gonna go right into our next video here, which is Sam Crawford guitar solo on "Wait for It," modified Stratocaster. I call it a Stratocaster, is what you call it.
That's what I called it. Yeah.
With and so who is this with? Because
that's with Houston. That's with Houston.
Oh, that same guy,
yeah,
right?
Same country.
And are you still with him?
Yeah, I'm still playing with him. Yep.
Cool. So let's take a listen to this solo, which is screaming and it's on fire.
Wait for it.
So you get through college.
Right.
What do you do?
Well, I kind of moved to Boston basically immediately. Yeah, because my girlfriend at the time
So this is like 2009,
was already headed here. This was
2008?
2011.
2011.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
so
like
we-
10 years ago.
So she
Yeah.
took a gap year before going to college.
Uh-huh.
We're just weeks apart in age, and I took a year off in the middle of college.
Yeah.
And because
To do gigs?
I kind of was. I got in my head about whether a music degree was worth the money.
Yeah,
if I wanted
it's
to
always
play,
a question
you
for
know.
many of us.
It's
I
a
always tell
legitimate
young
question.
people,
Yeah.
You never know where you're going to be in your career.
Well,
Get a
that's it,
degree in
yeah.
something because it might really hurt you when you're going for a job. Because we do have to survive as musicians. We still
You
have
do.
to live.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to work jobs, and sometimes we got to do work jobs outside of our music world. And having a degree can be the difference in thousands of dollars. So you went back.
Yeah, so I did ultimately decide to go back. The council, whoever I talked to in the administration
Right.
was savvy enough to say, why don't you take a leave of absence?
Right.
And then if you do want to come back,
There's
it'll be
no
easy.
issue. No paper.
And I said, well, I don't know if I will, but that sounds sensible.
So you moved back up here,
Yep.
and you just told me you were with this guy, Houston Bernard.
Yeah.
So did you meet him right off?
I think I met him. I think I had been here for like maybe 6 months when I
Yep.
met him, and he was doing classic country gigs. He was doing like classic stuff and outlaw stuff. So like Hank Williams, Waylon Jennings.
What kind of gigs? Like Loretta's Last Call? Like,
Well,
which
that
is
was
a big
before
gig.
Loretta's really got going, I think.
But you playing
but-
that level big.
but-
That's about the biggest gig. For
Yeah, I
country
mean,
in
we started out.
Boston.
I think with that band, we started out playing. So that was a band that was called the Big City Ramblers, and we would do gigs in restaurants and bars and clubs and things and gazebos wherever we could find them. And I needed gigs, so I just
Yep.
and I met the pedal steel player Karen Sarkeesian at Mr. Music actually.
Cool.
And she just said that they were having auditions for a guitar player, and I went in and did it, and I was their second choice, and because the first choice couldn't do it, and that's how I got the gig,
sometimes.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk too much. He worked at Mr. Music for a while.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a great music store. But we don't have that much time left. I want to talk about teaching.
Yeah.
What are you teaching right now? Who are you teaching? Are you teaching
Yeah.
little kids? Are you teaching adults?
I'm teaching a whole wide range of folks.
And he does it himself. And we'll have your contact information at the end of this in the
Great.
credits.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
To reach out to Sam if you want to work with him.
And I'm teaching a whole range of folks who have varied interests musically.
Are you getting them through? Because I see a ton of your Instagram. Are you getting them through that? Is
It's
that what people
almost
say?
entirely referrals
Uh-huh.
from word of mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will see me play. Sometimes it's like at a gig. Somebody will see me play and they'll be like, "Hey, do you teach?" And,
What are your thoughts on teaching people to be real musicians, like notes and sharps
Well,
and flats, versus I want to learn?
Yeah.
I'll say what I have. Where are you on that?
Well, the way
philosophically?
the way I look at it is, you don't need me if all you want to do is like learn how to play a specific song.
Right,
You
because
actually
there
don't
are
need- you
1,000
actually don't-
guys
yeah, you-
on the internet.
right. You
It's
actually don't need
If you
me
want
for
to build
that.
a space shuttle, there's a guy who probably could teach you.
Right,
There's
yeah.
Any song out there, there's a guy who will teach you.
Right, and
which
there's-
we didn't have. Even you
Right,
didn't have as a
not
young
really.
kid.
No. I mean, there like if I wanted to do that, I would have to go buy the piano, vocal, guitar version at the music store.
Yeah.
I just I've come around now to the point where I almost, no matter who you are, I'm going to teach you concepts. I'm going to teach you concepts. I'm going to teach you technique and theory, and I will pull heavily from musical examples from classic tunes or whatever it is you're interested in.
How many people do you
Right.
think know theory? Because I'm a
How many
I think
people know theory?
They use. I think it's critical, and I think a lot of guitar players don't.
Well, yeah, there is a resistance in the guitar community to intellectualism, I think, as it relates to music, and there's a suspicion of it, like
And vice versa, the ultra learned guitar players look down upon those who, you know.
Yeah, sometimes, and it's a real shame because it's just, to me, it's just a tool. It's just like, you know, if like, but it's the theory thing is a very useful tool because it means you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you learn a song. Right. It's like, okay, well this is a C chord, no matter what, right? You know, and even if I put it above an A, it's like that C triad is always still there. Even if I put it below a B flat, right? It's like that C triad is still there. So I don't know. I'm always trying to get people to do their inversions. You know, I did a bit of classical guitar when I was in college.
Oh, really?
And one of the most useful exercises I got out of that was I was never really any good with the real stuff.
I was never a good fingerprint. I broke my hand a couple of times when I was a kid.
My teacher showed me this. He said, practice this. Right? Do 1 4 1 5 1. You know, so like. Whoops. Right, and do that. You replicate that on all the string sets, you know, and it's like that's to me that's like I use that in everything from country to blues to reggae, right?
And that's another thing, guys at home. It's like your ear. These two things on the side of your ear, they're called ears. That first song we played earlier in the day, we didn't really know it. I kind of made it up. Yeah. But he hears it. He hears what key it's in, and he knows really what all the legal and illegal notes are in that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's the pentatonic thing, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I saw your video on a G minor pentatonic scale.
Yeah, I feel like the pentatonic scale is like, it's sort of maligned in a way as like being like too basic or something, but like I don't know, I've kind of made my whole career on it. Like, but, you know, like. You know, and just mixing the major and minor pentatonic sounds, like, you know.
And I've worked with guys who didn't know that. It's
Right.
But you can go.
Right.
With that same chord.
Like all the great blues and country and Americana guitar players know that, you know.
So there's a great album, Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore East, and that's like guitar players just listen to those guys. They're constantly going in and out of the minor and major pentatonic scales. So let me get into one last thing here. Yeah. What's going on in the future? What are the goals? What do you want to do with your career going forward?
So I've got a whole long note in my phone full of lyrics.
Oh, cool.
And I haven't really written songs with lyrics.
Cool.
But I want to go through it and sort of like, when something strikes me, you know, I'm like buying groceries or something and I think of some phrase or I hear like somebody over here say something and somebody over there, I was like, oh, those two words go together weird.
What's going on with your trio? Because we kind of
so I will.
Is that your current band?
So I've booked that sort of sporadically, and I haven't really put a lot of effort into that as a project.
And you sing?
But that's the thing I've done in the last few years is really work on my singing.
I'm singing more now these days. Yeah, so it's critical. If you're a guitar player and you can sing, it's that much better.
Well, I started singing background vocals with Houston years ago, and now I will take a solo gig now, which I was just sort of too chicken to do before. But I just sort of said, nope, do it. You just do it. And so now I can do like 3 hours of just me and the guitar, singing stuff, and I like doing country stuff. I like doing the old country stuff and blues stuff. But like, what's the one that I do is "Love and Cup." That song that Robin Ford does. It was a Paul Butterfield blues band song. Right? It's like. It's like early in the morning when the sun comes up. I see the man drinking from the left. Won't you tell me somebody what can I do? Honey, I wanna drink. Yeah, that kind of
And
thing.
so what is the
So-
goal there? So you're going to be
the
writing.
goal, yeah,
you want to put out an album.
I want to start doing my own stuff, whatever that is. You know, you asked me like, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to work that out right now. Actually, I'm like actively working on that now.
I'm 40 years older than you. I'm still figuring it out.
But yeah, I mean, I just have these sort of quirky collection of influences. I say like John Scofield's a big guy.
I
for
love
me,
John.
too. I didn't mention him, but you know, him and Robin and Brad Paisley actually probably three of my biggest influences.
So let's fade out on that E
Yeah.
thing. Thank you, folks. See you next time. Cool. That worked, man.
Yeah.